You've been told that fortune is external, a number in an account, a house on a hill, the applause of a crowd. But the truth is darker, quieter, and far more dangerous. Fortune begins not in the bank, but in the mind. It lives in perception, the subtle war between what people see and what you make them believe. Those who master this invisible field never run after gold, because gold itself begins to chase them. Machiavelli saw this centuries ago, watching princes and merchants rise and collapse not from lack of resources, but from lack of perception. He noticed that men do not act based on truth. They act on what they think is true. And the one who shapes that perception controls not just wealth, but destiny. You were never poor because you lacked money. You were poor because others wrote the script of your worth. You've been trained to work hard, to prove, to wait. But the powerful have always done something different. They don't ask what is fair. They ask what is effective. They understand that society rewards appearance over effort, control over chaos, and calm over desperation. And so, they built empires, not through labor, but through lucidity. They turned their inner clarity into gravity, pulling opportunity to them as if by nature's law. You can feel it, can't you? That quiet tension between the version of you who obeys and the one who observes. The part that feels trapped in the cycle of survival, and the one that whispers, you could control the game. That whisper is dangerous, because it's true. Every system that enslaves you depends on your blindness. Once you start seeing, you stop serving. Machiavelli's first secret was this. Fortune favors the psychologically prepared. Wealth follows perception, like a shadow follows light. It doesn't respond to who works hardest. It responds to who understands human nature. Every interaction, every negotiation, every silence is a battlefield. The untrained mind fights with emotion. The wise one fights with control. The poor man screams for justice. The rich man watches in silence, calculating the right moment to move. And that's why the first step from nothing to limitless fortune is detachment, not coldness, lucidity. To see the world without the fog of emotion, to read people like weather, to understand what moves them, what scares them, what they need to believe. Because wealth is not given, it's pulled through influence, through emotional gravity. You don't convince people with logic, you steer them with perception. Machiavelli never said, be cruel. He said, be clear. Clarity is cruel to the deluded. When you see how predictable humans are, when you realize how most people sell their autonomy for comfort, you stop participating in their illusions. You start orchestrating them. The man who controls perception doesn't manipulate. He architects. He doesn't fight for attention. He shapes where attention goes. That is why fortune always feels unfair. Because it is. It's not distributed by merit. It's absorbed by mastery. People will hate this truth. But that's why it remains powerful. The rich do not pray to fairness, they practice influence. They know the art of seeming inevitable. And nothing attracts power more than inevitability. You want to move from nothing to limitless fortune? Then you must stop trying to deserve and start learning to direct. Study the patterns of reaction. See how fear bends behavior, how admiration buys obedience, how scarcity fuels desire. Each of these is currency. Machiavelli understood that the true marketplace was not in Florence's streets, but in the mind of every man. Once you can sell certainty, people will give you their gold to escape their own confusion. The second step is strategic silence. Power doesn't come from speaking. It comes from being the one everyone speaks about. The weak reveal themselves through words, through the need to explain. The strong reveal themselves through absence, through precision. Every pause, every delay, every unreadable glance becomes a message. When people can't read you, they project onto you, and their projections become your weapon. The world thinks wealth means noise, advertisements, followers, applause. But Machiavellian fortune is quiet. It grows in shadows. It multiplies in discretion. Every time you stay silent when your ego wants to prove itself, you are accumulating invisible wealth, psychological capital. Because while others spend energy to be seen, you collect energy by observing. And one day, when they exhaust themselves seeking validation, you act, and they mistake your timing for luck. The third step is controlled exposure. People must see enough of you to admire, but never enough to predict. Mystery is the interest rate of attention. The less you reveal, the more value your presence gains. Appear rarely, speak intentionally, let your name circulate in rooms you've never entered. This is how kings ruled and how brands today ascend, by being scarce, not loud. Think of it. Every object you desire became valuable not because it was superior, but because it appeared limited. Humans equate rarity with worth. That is why scarcity, when controlled, becomes the most potent currency of all. Machiavelli knew this. He wrote that men judge more by the eye than the hand, for all can see, but few can touch. So design what they see. Let them imagine what they can't touch. You control the game by controlling their curiosity. But let's descend deeper. Beneath all strategies lies one truth Machiavelli understood better than anyone. Humans are emotional machines wearing rational masks. If you can control emotion, in yourself and others, you can print fortune infinitely. Because every market, every deal, every empire runs on emotion disguised as logic. The price of gold, the rise of trends, the fall of kings, all are collective moods with mathematical consequences. When you learn to stay calm while others panic, you become rare. When you remain patient while others rush, you become untouchable. When you act from clarity instead of hunger, you start bending probability. Because in chaos, people pay a premium for certainty. Be that certainty. Become the quiet center while others spiral. And yet, here's the paradox. To master others, you must first master the theater inside your own mind. Your fears, your cravings, your need to prove. Every reaction is a handle someone else can pull. The man who cannot be triggered cannot be controlled. The man who cannot be predicted cannot be replaced. That is the invisible fortune Machiavelli spoke of, not coins, but composure. You may ask, but how do I start? You start small, by noticing. Watch how people give power away in every conversation. How they overshare to be liked. How they flatter to be safe. How they say yes to avoid silence. Each of these is a transaction. They trade power for comfort. Stop making those trades. Each time you choose silence over explanation, purpose over approval, you take a coin from the invisible vault of control. You were taught to chase, but Machiavelli teaches you to attract. You were taught to compete. He teaches you to reposition. You were told to seek mentors. He tells you to study human weakness instead. Because understanding people is the final form of intelligence. Once you grasp the logic of emotion, the game stops being about effort and becomes about orchestration. You begin to predict reactions before they happen, and reality starts moving in your favor. The world will call you lucky, but luck is just the name the blind give to clarity. Fortune, in Machiavellian terms, is the natural consequence of psychological order. When your inner world is disciplined, the outer one begins to synchronize. You'll start to notice patterns, timing, connections, openings. Things that seemed random will align because you are finally perceiving instead of reacting. And here is the deepest truth. Fortune does not belong to those who seek control. It belongs to those who embody it. Control is not an act. It's a vibration. When you no longer need to prove, chase, or argue, people sense it. They start aligning with your calm. They invest in your presence because it feels like certainty. That is how psychological wealth multiplies. Invisibly, relentlessly, silently. Soon you'll realize that every rich man, every powerful leader, every magnetic creator you've admired was playing this exact game. The Machiavellian game of controlled perception. Their real wealth was not money, but the ability to remain unreadable in a world addicted to exposure. They understood that mystery protects momentum, that clarity attracts opportunity, that calm destroys competition, And you, right now, are at the threshold of that same transformation. The question is no longer whether you can be rich. The question is whether you can remain composed long enough to let your fortune find you, because it's already moving toward you. You just have to stop chasing and start positioning. Machiavelli said that men rise from one ambition to another, first to secure themselves against attack, then to attack others. But the final stage is higher. It's freedom from the game itself. When you no longer need to prove power, you have become power. That is limitless fortune, because nothing external can threaten a mind that controls perception. From nothing to limitless fortune, that is not a journey of money, but of mind. It's the quiet revolution of seeing what others ignore and mastering what they reveal by accident. It's the discipline of appearing effortless while others drown in effort. It's the art of commanding attention without demanding it. You are no longer here to survive. You are here to govern, and governance begins within. Every time you choose stillness over reaction, silence over chaos, observation over participation, you are building invisible capital. One day it becomes visible and they will call it wealth, but you will know it was always control. This channel isn't for those who chase noise. It's for those who build silence so powerful it turns into gravity. You've already begun the transformation. Don't stop now. Subscribe and move closer to mastery. Comment below. What emotion still controls you, and when will you take it back? The next video won't teach you how to make money. It will teach you how to become the reason others do.